Gather around, Skull Brothers and Sisters. This is Minnesota Sports Talk, presenting Under the Lights with your hosts, Justin and Dave. Next in 3, 2, 1. Gather around, Skull Brothers and Sisters. This is Under the Lights, and we brought Daniel Jeremiah's distant cousin, Dante from East Coast Gridiron, our resident for at least one day college expert who went down to I forget where over to Mobile, Alabama during Mardi Gras to watch some college players bump around on each other.
Yeah,
let's get going. Introduce yourself, Dante. Everybody, like, they don't know you. Go ahead.
Hey, man, if you just Google East Coast Gridiron, we'll pop up somewhere. This is a proven fact. I have tested this out myself, and other people have as well. No, I'm just your neighborhood friendly, college football guy, NFL guy. I try to learn as much as I can where I can. We're actually covering the XFL. We actually started this week, so you said turn my mic on. Is my mic good? Can you guys hear me?
It is not prominent, but I can hear you.
It's not prominent? I can fix that. What about now?
Same.
It's the same. Hold on. Get this out of here.
Let's throw some shout outs. David Michelson, yes, I was looking forward to Dante. We normally go on Tuesday, but we made this special exception to go on Thursday just to get Dante on the air. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, McAndrews. I got you. Go ahead.
Is that better now?
I can
hear him just fine. You can't hear him?
I mean, I can hear you fine. I just think it's this guy has just got a problem with him. You. I don't know. I don't think he likes you.
Rap
from
okay.
Purple Pocket Podcast. He's just making it difficult. We can hear you fine.
We got you. If he can't hear you, then he's the only one. So
Yeah.
The skull rap. All right, Bandito, Eagles fan, right? I don't know what these guys are talking about. Dante is a Jags fan. There you go.
Jacksonville
fan. Jaguars fan.
What's up, Don? Thanks for joining us.
All right. Hey, so talk a little bit about the experience. You went down there the first time with like credentials, like you got to interview the players.
Yeah. So what was really cool about it is, we applied for credentials around, I want to say like the end of November when they opened it up, or sometime in December. I can't remember what the time frame was. And then I hated how close it was, because it was like, should we start planning for it even if we don't get approved for it? So I think, if we had to start with the beginning processes, I don't know if it was the most organized when it comes to that. I would have maybe a month and a half notice to start getting my stuff together. But we made it work, because I had to take a connecting flight from Philadelphia to Orlando, and then Orlando to Pensacola. And Pensacola, Florida is about an hour away to Mobile, Alabama. So, but that process was cool. Once you knew that you had to do everything, I had plenty of time to book an Airbnb and things like that. So it was me, my guy Ronnie, and then my other guy Evan. We both all three of us went down there. And yeah, I mean, it's a small town for the most part. I don't know if you guys ever been to the South. Mobile's not the nicest city, I would say, but a little history that I learned down there is Mardi Gras. That's where it started, because New Orleans is about an hour and 30 minutes away from Mobile, and that just migrated over there. So
can you give a little bit of credit who told you that?
That was you.
Yeah, it was me. And when we had our last show, I said, because I was checking it out too, and it turned out to be the same weekend I started.
It was thrown in our face. It was thrown in our face the whole time. Every house was lit up with purple, gold, and green. All the fixtures. You would think it's Christmas 2.0 or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was wanting to go, right? And I was just gonna go probably to watch. I checked on getting credentials and whatever. I wasn't too sure about it, so I didn't want to start the process. And they said you could show for practices anyways. But I wouldn't have been able to access any interviews or anything. But I ended up going to London that weekend, so I wasn't able to go because of my new job. So I was.
It's jealous. Not going anywhere. You can make it.
I'm gonna. I hope it's on the same type of weekend. I imagine Mardi Gras kind of switches. I'm not sure because this is based around Easter or something like that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was actually interesting that like people were able to migrate to the practices, and what I can say honestly, the venue itself being at South Alabama is really nice. Like their campus is super clean. It's super nice. The students must love when football games or games on that field happen because their dormitories are like right up the street from there, so they can just walk down to the stadium. It's easy to get into. It's not like in the city or you have to worry about all this traffic. The traffic on game day was actually really easy to get into.
Nice.
So kudos to whoever puts that together at South Alabama staff. Like it's actually really nice. So no wonder why they continuously go back there and have this thing year after year after year. It's a really good venue. So that's one good thing I can say about it. Like I said, some other things are not very clear. Like when we tried to do interviews on the field after the practices, if you were new, you didn't really know where to go because they were telling us, "Oh, you got to go to the southbound tunnel on the north side," and we're like, "Well, which is the south side of the end zone? Which one is the north side?" They didn't really explain. So we just ended up following some people, and basically you have to walk out the stadium all the way around where the buses were, and then there's a tunnel there, and you just get to walk on the field. So,
Wow.
but yeah, I think this is the first year they had over 1,000 people credentialed, and I think there's different types of credentials too. So you have guys like us that are allowed to sit pretty much wherever we want in the stadium. We're allowed to film and write notes, and then there's other guys like, I don't know if you guys seen the Draft Network. They're all walking around with all their stuff on, just walking on the field. And so hopefully, once we get to go to these things, a couple more credentials like get approved to have higher levels of access to things, because I would really like to be on the field and ask people questions. Like Mike Tomlin was there.
Nice.
Brian Flores was with them, just walking around. I saw Jack Del Rio one day, and all the ESPN
Kwesi there?
guys.
Wasn't that picture with Kwesi taken with Flores at the Senior Bowl?
I didn't recognize him. I don't really know what Kwesi looks like. I know.
You remember that picture though, right?
He
He
probably
came
was
out
there.
that Flores was talking to Kwesi on a football field. I assumed it was the Senior Bowl, but I might be mistaken. It was a bowl game.
I thought it was the Senior Bowl too, but maybe not.
I think so.
Either
If you're
way.
listening and you can confirm my expertise in this field of knowing everything, please put in the chat. I'm kidding. I don't know shit. But I do. That's what I tweeted it out as soon as I saw it. I believe it was the Senior Bowl, and that's when I think I did a video shortly after denouncing Flores as our defensive coordinator, who later became our defensive coordinator, making me look terrible. But he has since grown on me. So Brian Flores, I'm sorry. I have since grown on you. A lot of people changed my mind about you. So gotta listen, people. Dante, right? You can't just be stuck in your own head.
Yeah, you can't, man. I mean, that whole event was excellent. I mean, from the people that you just surround yourself with, there were serious people down there, like with us, that were taking a lot of notes, and that's what they were doing. They were focused on the player. They were taking videos of a player. I mean, you don't really know who. It says like on your, I wish I could go get it, but it says like on your lanyard, you have like a little plastic card, so if it rains or something, it doesn't get ruined. Literally said our name with East Coast Gridiron on it. And it had we got like a lanyard that came with it and everything. And then on the back, what was really cool about the Senior Bowl this year, and we meant to go interview the guy that was there, but what was really cool is you could scan a QR code on the back of your phone, and the QR code would actually it would actually go to this website that's owned by this company called Zebra. And what Zebra was doing is they were collecting all kinds of stats from the Senior Bowl and every single player that was there. So things like how fast a player was running, what their splits were, what their best rep was, and things like that, like in real time. I don't really know how the technology works because we didn't get a chance to sit down and talk to the guy. Like, we were invited to go speak with him. We just didn't have the time to. But whoever the Zebra company is, they were fantastic. I mean, they would put it up on the scoreboard so you can see it in between each practice and everything. And then after the first day of practice, we got there the second day. We didn't get there the first day. So we got to see all the statistics from like the first day, like how fast they were and everything else. It was pretty crazy, man. I didn't expect that. That kind of blew me away when I saw it. But yeah, man. And then the interviews. So Wednesday, when our very first day there, they had a breakfast. The breakfast was trash, by the way. Let me tell you. We were expecting like this
Senior Bowl.
Yeah, we were expecting this grandiose thing, but when it's really just to like if you're thirsty or if you want something quick, they had like cheese grits or something like that with orange juice. Like it was like really, really trash. But you're not gonna go there expecting to go to have like an IHOP type of a morning. You're there
grits?
to go. Yeah, it was like grits and like orange juice, but it was like a quick eat. So I think what they were trying to plan out is so they had the national team and their American team split up. So they had it at the convention center downtown Mobile. So when you walk in, we saw like Crane and Company. I don't know if you've seen their podcast or they're like pretty big. And then all the ESPN guys were there with their table set up, just talking about the game. All the ESPN radio guys. And then you walk into the actual ballroom and they had tables set up. And then there was 4 platforms with Reese's Senior Bowl backdrops and everything for people that were doing interviews. So basically what happened is the national team came in first. All the players, they were dressed up with their names on the back. And us being new, we were like, what's going on? Are they like all going to sit down? Or are they like going to eat breakfast or whatever? But no, literally they come in and you can pull whoever you want to except for the guys that were at the podium. And when those guys got done, you could pull them. So it was like everybody screaming at the bits just like, hey, you want to get in? So we were, we only got like 6 or 7 interviews our whole time there. I wish we would have gotten more, but I was just trying to like soak in the moment and like kind of listen to what other people were asking because I've never been in that type of environment like a media guy. I think we did pretty well for the stuff that we got, but I think these players they're obviously trained to say certain things, which we were kind of novices in asking like, hey, if you had to compare yourself to somebody or if you had a team you wanted to go to, who would you want to go to? They're like, hey man, I'm just glad to be here. Even though you kind of want to just nudge it out, I'm like, man, come on. Who's your favorite team growing up? But you can obviously tell that their school or the Senior Bowl has trained them for certain canned answers for things because they want to help out their chances of getting drafted, which I totally get that. So the next year going in with all that we've learned, I know that we can ask better questions,
Well, it's a learning experience in life where the first time you got, it's just kind of like when, pick your team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 20 years. Oh, we're just happy to be here. And the fans are just like, hey, we made the playoffs. And then after that, the next time around, you're like, okay, we're not satisfied being here anymore, where you picked up on some things. But having all that sitting here, I'm still in awe. I'm like, man, that sounds like a blast, man. So I'm glad you had a good time.
Speaking of questions, Rap wants to ask you, tell us about the safety you have the Vikings picking.
Oh, in my mock draft? Hold on. I got to bring up my mock draft because I can't remember who I had. I think I had you guys picking Brian Branch from Alabama, if I remember right. Hold on. I'll bring it up
so
here.
So we're going 2 years in a row picking a safety?
Yeah. Brian Branch from Alabama. Hey, this is my mock draft 1.0. I mean,
okay. We'll move on.
Yeah.
Hey, this is my Dorian Thompson Robinson brother. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Love Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Okay. Hey, so we got the first question about players. I got Justin, chomping at the bit to ask you about this guy, John Michael Schmidt. Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm going to say it like this before I'll let you answer. It's in my head. I know that taking him at 23 probably isn't the best positional value. Maybe make some trade backs, get some additional currency. My heart as a bleeding Gopher as well as the rest of Minnesota sports is just like, man, I would love to. I mean, I have seen him play, so it's not like I'm just saying, oh, hey, he's the number 1 or 2 center available and he played at Minnesota. I actually see the guy play, but give us your take on John Michael Schmitz and, is he a good enough value at the 23 spot if he's available there?
I don't know. That might be a gamble, but from what I've seen in the Senior Bowl and from what I've seen him playing, I have 2 compelling points for both of why he would be worth it. Is he is very, very strong. I mean, all Senior Bowl long, you're not going to put the guy on his butt. That's one thing. And they were doing this drill, like this D lineman drill and this offensive lineman drill, and you can literally tell who the strongest guys are on the field with that drill, obviously. And he wasn't a pushover, so that's the actual plus on his side. And here's the other point I'll make, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Who do you think I have my number one running back coming out in this class?
It can't be Mo Ibrahim.
It is.
Seriously?
Yes.
That's your number one guy?
He's my number one guy, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, my ears all perked up now, Dante. What you got?
19 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I don't care what anybody's saying. Playing in cold weather matters. It really does. Because you're going to get those brutal conditions every single time. What are you going to be like in the rain? What are you going to be like in the snow? You got to, especially if he came to Minnesota, he's going to have to battle those conditions once again, playing all the other teams outside of you guys that are outside teams.
I got a trivia question for you, Dante.
What's that?
On. What is the Minnesota Gophers' record against the University of Alabama?
They're probably like 3-0 or something.
They're 1-0. They beat them in the Music City Bowl.
I know they beat them, and Alabama's never beat them. So
yeah.
So Mo Ibrahim, he's my favorite because I think he has a complete package as far as versatility. And John Michael Schmitz was a big part of that, and that's the reason why I say it's a compelling point. Because what did Mo Ibrahim do a lot? He was able to run anywhere between the tackle, between the guard, outside. You're not catching him in a foot race in open field. He's a big guy. And I'll tell you the most impressive thing about Mo Ibrahim. The dude has 1,600 yards and 20-something touchdowns this season, coming off of a bad, I think it was an ACL injury last year that he suffered like in the first game.
I thought it was Achilles, actually.
Well, or Achilles injury, yeah. So Achilles injury translating to 16 yards and 20-something touchdowns. You're not going to get a guy and he doesn't get hurt like that. That was a major injury. That was a fluky thing. Yeah. He came back like he never left. And like I said, 19 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Nobody in his class has done that. So why are we not talking about him more? Because you know what everybody else has that Minnesota's not known for? They're not dumping off passes to him. But everybody wants that dual threat quarterback or dual threat running back like the Dalvin Cooks and everybody. That's just the norm of the game. But if you're looking for the next like old school type of running back that can do it all, you have Bijan Robinson, who I don't even think is a complete back like Mo Ibrahim. I think in the combine, he's going to shock some people. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen him playing at Minnesota, man. He's a beast.
Part of the reason I said this once and once only on a show that I did, I said if he's still available in the 6th round, you take him and you don't even think twice about it. But of course, as much as you're playing with your heart right now instead of your head crowd came at me about John Michael Schmitz, it's like, okay, running backs are a dime a dozen. You can get, you don't have to just take the guy because I'm not just taking him or thinking about him just because he played, for my university and that I've seen him play. I've seen this guy carry this offense. I've seen this guy have games where he's had 30 plus touches because we don't have quarterbacks that can do anything. I've seen this team, albeit a middling team, literally say, if we can't run the ball with Mo Ibrahim, we can't do anything offensively. Even in 2019, where you had 2 wide receivers in Rashad Bateman and Tyler Johnson, the best season the Gophers have had pert near in my lifetime, it was still based off of the play action and the run pass options there. So yeah, I think his skills would absolutely translate to the NFL. And again, it's not like he's going to be a 1st or 2nd round pick where he's going to be expected to, like when Ezekiel Elliott was drafted, you knew from the get-go that he was going to be the bell cow. Mo Ibrahim would not be expected to be that no matter where he got drafted. So I'm trying to let my heart not get in the way of my head. But no, if somehow, some way he's there in the 6th and they took him, I'd be ecstatic. Regardless of the rest of how the draft went, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, I know we're talking about John Michael Schmitz, but just to give the Minnesota Gophers their credit, man. That first game, I think it was the first game or the second game you guys played against Ohio State where he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
You guys had them up against the wall for a lot of that game.
Yeah.
Like you were threatening, and I think the X factor was him getting hurt.
Yes.
I think it would have been close, and I think that would have set the stage for the rest of your season. I think you guys would have been coming out of the West. You guys would have been a threat coming out of the West. But I think once that happened, it was like cutting the knees off a human. that's exactly what happened to their team. But John Michael Schmidt was a big part of that, man. All those up the middle runs that Muhammad Ibrahim had, and him just getting double team and pushing those guys out the way. That's the stuff that you got to watch on tape with him. He did the same thing in the Senior Bowl. I mean, like I said, he's not like the sexy center that you're going to see, like the Jason Kelce's that are pulling out and just dragging guys with them. But if you want like an old school get in your face, you know that the ball is going to be secured every time. And I think that's one thing a lot of people don't give centers credit for. How many times are you getting turnovers because your center couldn't get the ball either in a shotgun formation to the quarterback or handed it off weird? You're not having a problem with him. So those are like the little intangibles that you really got to look at. And he's perfect when it comes to that type of stuff.
In the videos that I've seen of him, he seems like a people mover. Like those holes, like he made holes. Like he blocked that guy and then went on the second level and got the other guy, and the running back just following him. It's just I just think if we did get him, I would hope that it was in a trade down situation and he's still there, and we got extra picks in him, and that would be great. And hopefully, the fact that we might be a little gun shy drafting a center in the first round again, that would be my situation.
Well,
he's a good player.
I'm going to address that though. Were we gun shy when we took Justin Jefferson after Laquan Treadwell? No. Okay, Justin Jefferson a little different than a center. I get that. So I'm not completely off my rocker. I mean, a little, of course, but not completely. But what I will say about JMS is that
Troy Williamson.
Yeah, well, there's that. So I think as Vikings fans, our standards of a strong center are so low after watching Garrett Bradbury for 4 years that when you come right out the gate and say you can tell who the strongest guys are, after watching Garrett Bradbury just get bull rush back into Kirk Cousins for as long as he has, as soon as you say, hey, this guy is strong and he's not going to get knocked off of his rocker, that's almost good enough right then and there. So, again, I'm trying to not let my enthusiasm for a guy that has a spot in my heart to get the best of me here. So that's why we brought you on to keep me straight here. So.
Yeah, I mean, your thoughts on that, I would tell you that you're not being biased. I mean, especially I was talking about Muhammad Ibrahim. I think he is the most disrespect. I don't want to say disrespect, but that's like the word that comes to mind, because I think people are so enamored with Bijan Robinson and all of them right now, and it's like you have the better running back that's probably going to get drafted in the 6th round, like you said, unless he just stands out to somebody. I mean, I don't know how he's going to do in his interview, but he's not a guy that gets in trouble either. He's a quiet guy. He reminds me of Dalvin Cook when he was at Florida State, because I'm a Florida State guy. He was a quiet guy that just did whatever you wanted for the team. So, yeah, I mean, but like I said, John Michael Schmidt had a lot to do with his success too. So, but they just played rough and tough football for him. You guys were definitely a running back team,
to say the least. And again, I think part of it too is just that Minnesota is just not on a national stage like some of your other players that we're going to talk about here from all the major power conference schools. Is every time Minnesota has one good year, it's okay. Can they actually put it together? They had the world in front of them in 2019, where all they had to do was beat either Iowa or Wisconsin, the two teams that they can, beat once a decade. And then they would have been in the Big Ten championship game. But alas, there's not it. A couple shouts to my guys here: Jim, NFL Drop, Shot, Darian, and Fish and Football. Thanks everybody for joining us here. So, okay, I think I've spent enough time on some Gophers here. So I'll let you go up there next. David.
A quick topic, since we were talking about running backs, and our situation's a little sticky with Dalvin Cook just playing the calendar and getting surgery now instead of right away, and insuring himself probably $2 million injury bonus, and probably make him hard to trade, and this may be a way where he is sticking on this team, unless because there was a potential trade situation. And we were looking at, to be down just to Kenny Nwangu and Ty Chandler. What were your thoughts, quick thoughts about Kenny Nwangu and Ty Chandler before they were drafted?
I mean, I thought they were just pretty average, to be completely honest with you. A lot of people were blown away with them, but, being on the other side of it, I mean, they were average in college and was the type of career that they had, pretty average, right? I would say below average.
Well, Kenny Nwangu was sitting behind people, but like Ty Chandler actually got his shot with North Carolina and was very productive, but that didn't put you over the edge after his back by committee in Tennessee.
Not at all.
All right, I'm
Tennessee
sad.
Tennessee has sucked for a very long time too. So you have to put it like that.
I'm sad. Oh, come on, I want Ty Chandler. All right. So we got Osiris Torrance. I'm going with some offensive linemen here. Osiris Torrance, Florida guard.
So the most interesting thing about Osiris Torrance, he was a transfer from Louisiana that came over with Billy Napier when he became head coach, and he actually dabbled in playing, tackle and center for a little bit in high school and for Louisiana. So if you're talking about the Swiss Army knife, like offensive guard, this is him. I mean, you literally might bring him in an interview and ask, how confident are you in playing tackle if we really need you to? So I think on my mock draft, I had him going to the Eagles because I just don't know what they're going to do as far as offensive linemen and how much they want to protect Jalen Hurts, and they're going to need somebody that's going to have to be versatile with the running quarterback like that. But Osiris Torrance, I think, will work with anybody because, like I said, he even said in our interview, he was like, dude, I could play tackle, I could play guard, I could play center, and that's my number one strong suit going into this draft. That's the number one
round
thing
value? When I would say one of these players, give us kind of idea what a round value range, or if you don't.
I think he's into the first round.
Is he?
Realistically, but that's to me. But I think he'll end up probably going in the second round. But again, it depends on how much people pay attention to the combine and how strong he is. So that's Osiris Torrance for you. But I think he's strong. He doesn't let people push him over as far as on the defensive line side. He's smart. I mean, turning his hips as an offensive lineman, he's actually pretty quick because his lower half of his body is actually smaller than his top half of his body. So I don't know if he's not going to put out a lot of power from there, but he's going to be really quick with his feet.
Well, Zim and Spielman were here. They take him in 23. They like putting guards and tackles at guards and stuff. So that would be a perfect fit for those guys.
This is an offensive lineman draft for sure.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty good.
And we got Steve Avila, TCU guard.
Mm-hmm. He's tall and lanky. So when you talk about guys that are big, it just depends on what big you're talking about because he is kind of tiny for size, but he's really like, really reachy is what we like to say. So, but Steve Avila definitely, his third day of practice was better than his first two. I mean, he started to turn up juice, and I don't know if that was just him getting comfortable or, TCU got their butts whooped in the national championship. I know you guys saw, and he was getting beat up pretty bad from Jalen Carter. So I don't know if it was just nerves going into this practice for the Senior Bowl, but Steve Avila, his third day of practice was good, and he had a fairly decent Senior Bowl as well once he came out there. So, I mean, a trajectory, I think. Well, I think what I'll give you with some of these players is are they on a downward trajectory or on the upward trajectory from what we've seen versus them? And Steve Avila definitely is going to get an up arrow for me.
And just for the listeners, I picked these names because they got some national media attention, and that's why I wanted Dante to talk about it. And he threw a couple of names in here, but go ahead.
Yeah, so Steve Avila definitely gets an up arrow for me. I think he's probably like a 4th, 5th round talent. He might sneak his way up. Again, depends on the combine and how comfortable he feels there. But, I hope he doesn't start out, if he does become a starter in the NFL, I hope he doesn't start out slow like he did in the Senior Bowl and then starts to catch his feet because, offensive linemen, they don't get that type of luxury like other players do.
No.
You're allowed to, like, wide receivers and things like that. You can start in the slot or even in the 4th spot and move your way up. You can't do that when you're an offensive lineman. You need to make a direct impact right away. But one guy that's going to make a direct impact is this guy right here, Matthew Bergeron. Seen him at Syracuse personally. Actually, his coach was in the stands, like right in front of us. So we got,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Dino Babers was there. His family was there. But every single rep mattered for him. And he knew he was coming from a smaller school in Syracuse where, they play in the ACC. And, of course, they're on the back end of the schools in the ACC. They're still a Power 5 school, but Syracuse gets beat up every year, and especially on offense. But they had a really good offense this year. And he was blocking for one of the best running backs in college football, which was Sean Tucker. So having a lot to do with that and protecting his quarterback. Forget the kid's name, but he had a really good year too at Syracuse. But Matthew Bergeron was good every single day of practice and in the game. So
does he have, for our purposes as Viking fans, with 2 bookend tackles, hopefully Brian O'Neill comes back fully healthy. Does this guy have any position flexibility?
I think he would work better on a team where he knows that there's going to be a scrambling quarterback, which you guys don't have right now, because he's used to being get off, get around the outside quick, block a guy, push him away, see if he can create a hole between him and the guard so his quarterback can get through. That's what he did at Syracuse. But, I mean, I was impressed, man. Some of the guys that he went against are big guys, like Byron Young was one of the guys that was trying to have a field day on him, and it just didn't work. So definitely you're going to give this guy 2 green arrows pointed up. Like I'm really high on Matthew Bergeron after the Senior Bowl.
Next segue. Speaking of Byron Young, I moved him up the chain for you.
Yeah. So speaking of Byron Young here, man, he's he's an absolute demon. So Byron Young, the whole practice. This is who was the guy that used to play for you? Jared Allen.
Hall of Fame snub, Jared Allen.
Screwed. Yeah, got screwed again. 3 years running.
That's crazy to me. Byron Young, when I say he looks like a superhero, like his physique, he's a big kid. You can tell he's strong, and he's not the quickest. But what I can tell you that I like out of the whole, he was one of the guys that we put, like, we had a top 10 list of like guys that are just great practice guys. He's one of them that's going to test your offensive lineman day in and day out because he has a high motor. And I think the analogy that I used during the week was his cleats were in the ground and grass was coming up on the other side. And he was going to push you back and make you work for it. He's going to make you want you to get off of him. And I like that from him, man. I thought he was freaking one of the best. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be like a Von Miller, put your arms out and try to get on the tackle. But he's one of those guys that you're going to be seeing your offensive lineman's back in your face the whole game. And he might get a hand in there. And if he does, you might get hurt because he's super strong. But Byron Young, I can't say enough good things about him, man. He was super impressive.
Where is he in prospect list? Like you're obviously saying he's an up arrow, but
yeah, he's like a 3rd or 4th rounder right now. Again, this is another kid that I think is going to like really shock people come to combine. I think when you start looking at the bench pressing, if he decides to participate in that, he's going to be in the high 20s, maybe in the 30s. He's crazy, crazy strong.
Yeah, like I got this is just CBS, but they got him like ranked 85th, so they're probably could kind of agree on the high end of yours. So
yeah. I think him, and I know we're gonna talk about Keon White, but they were not even projected like in the first 3 rounds at all. I mean, they were like 6-7 round picks, and they jumped up after the Senior Bowl. So everything that I was seeing, obviously somebody else was seeing too, and he's just one of those guys. So.
Yeah, they got him here. I don't know. Yeah, so, like the CBS list, they didn't even have Keanu Benton from Wisconsin in the top 200, and I seen him as high as 50. So I'm like, yeah, that's a guy I really like. I don't have a good thing. I don't have a good thing to say about him. You don't have any good. He was literally getting crushed in practice. The kid from Michigan that we were talking about before the show, Awatimi. I actually have a video of him just getting completely pancaked like right off the snap. Don't watch my video then. Yeah. Don't watch my video on account of Ben. I don't want you laughing at me. You're serious? He's getting crushed. In games he looked good, but going against, like I said, from Michigan. We're talking about practice. Yeah, I did my Allen Iverson. I mean, I'm like I said, I rank a lot of people higher that are good practice players. Yeah, like that Allen Iverson. Yeah, I mean, and he might step up. I didn't really see him in the game show up like that, but again, we're watching, almost 50 players go in and out the whole game. I guess that's why CBS don't got him in the top 200.
Now there you go.
Yeah. So you can say this name. I can't.
Olusegun Olawatimi, from Michigan. I believe he was the Remington Award winner, which is the best offensive lineman in college football. He showed it, man. Every single rep mattered to him too. Nobody was pushing him back whatsoever. And like I said, the kid from Wisconsin that you like, he got a little bit of taste of what a good offensive lineman can do. He's going to be good anywhere. I mean, projecting him in the first or second round is where he should be. The Remington Award is it's probably the toughest award to win to me in college football because it's not so obvious because there's always good offensive linemen that come out of the SEC in these bigger schools. And for a Michigan guy to win it, he deserves every little bit of praise he gets. He's not a sexy offensive lineman ever, but he's one of those guys that's like trying to push a brick wall over. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Is there a reason why I see everybody just list him as offensive lineman and not like a position?
Because he could play two ways. He could play guard and tackle too. I think he primarily played guard this year for Michigan. So another guy, Cody Mock. This is my guy right here. Cody Mock was awesome, man. I mean, no teeth, long red hair. He looked like a Viking.
Cody Mock is a good football name too.
Yeah. Cody Mock is an awesome football name. Cody Mock was good. He literally can play any of that. If you want like a screen type of offense or RPO offense, he's there for it. Because remember, this guy played with Trey Lance as well in North Dakota State. So they're used to running the ball a ton and pulling guards and stuff like that. Cody Mock's your guy. And the modern day offensive lineman and what they need to deal with, and he's a big guy too. You draft Cody Mock, I think he is at least worth at least a second round pick. He's really good.
I'll have to keep an eye on him because I'm going to put his name down on my list here because CBS did him dirty.
It's because he played in North Dakota State. But,
I know.
But for him to
I'm from South Dakota, so I know all about the Summit League.
Well,
and I'm like, I'll give it, back in the day, it was a North Central Conference, and it was NDSU, USD, Nebraska, Omaha, Northern Colorado, all those schools. And I tease little people when they get all excited about a Summit League player because it's the Summit League. Watson came from there, and so yeah.
But you got to think about this too with Cody Mock. You play for the best team that's in FCS. So I mean that
was South Dakota State. They beat North Dakota State this year. Sorry, NDSU. Go Jackrabbits.
Hey, it's like every other year they win it, but I think out of him,
it's true.
the kid from Chattanooga that we were talking about pre-show, he was not good. And then I'll tell you, the kid from Princeton, that wide receiver Andre Yoshivas, was not good either. And that's what separates him from being able to keep up with like the Power 5 guys versus everybody else that came from these smaller schools. Mm-hmm. So he can keep up with them. So that's kind of like what you have to look at, like when you go to the Senior Bowl and stuff and see how they practice. How do you practice against Power 5 guys that are practicing pretty much against people that are better than you? Well, are supposed to be better than you. You got invited here because you were the standout where you were, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to stand out at the next level.
Right.
And that's what you had to give Cody Mock credit for.
Here's a question for Justin. What does Jake Hayner from Fresno State have in common with Christian Ponder?
I have no idea. They play quarterback.
Both Senior Bowl MVPs.
Oh, yeah.
Take it, Monte. What do you think of Jake Hayner? I got people have him as a QB5.
Jake Hayner's problem is his size. Not necessarily his build, but how short he is. Mm-hmm. But he was a beast at Fresno State, man. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. There's a reason why he won MVP, and I think one of the reasons why is because the other quarterbacks just didn't show up. Like Max Duggan just didn't show up. Malik Cunningham didn't show up, even though Malik Cunningham at quarterback for Louisville, he had the most practice touchdowns, but was the worst practice player. But Jake Hayner he was pretty average during his practices and stuff like that, and I think he went for like 12 for 16. He threw a touchdown like 150 yards or something like that, and that's going to win you MVP all game long. But like I said, his problem is going to be looking over those big offensive linemen like they thought Drew Brees was going to have a problem with.
I was going to say Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, that sort of thing.
I kind of got to put my ESPN analyst hat on that one, but really and truly, he does have mechanical issues that Russell Wilson and Drew Brees didn't have. So, I mean, he's not your big arm guy. He's not slinging the rock like that. His velocity is not the strongest. So, but I like Jake Haener personally. I thought he did a lot of good things, but yes, he's like a quarterback, a 3 or 4 on a team that maybe can develop into something in the future. But you're not drafting Jake Haener to be your number 1 overall quarterback in the future.
So he's a guy.
Cheese Empire.
I was going to say Cheese Empire, Florida boy. What's happening? Thanks for joining us. These your guys?
Yep, all my guys right there.
Yeah, like my boy Watson, Cheese Empire. Sorry, man. I mean,
So
I
what you're
like
saying
him. I
is
don't think he's the number 1 yet, but
Right.
yeah, he's definitely on the upswing, Watson.
So he's a guy you stash away and you let Kevin O'Connell, the mastermind, supposedly quarterback whisperer that he is, work on him for a couple of years, is what you're saying at best.
Yeah, I think he wins you a couple of games when you need him to. If he's under a system for about 3 years and just knows it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I compare him to Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy was way more talented than him in college, but you see what Colt McCoy does, when he comes in. He comes in, he'll win you a game like he did at Arizona. He'll win you a game or two, but after that, you're going to need to wish that your starting quarterback comes back because their clock is ticking for them to go back and sit on the bench.
He's the kind of guy that's got 1 or 2 bullets where once you fire those 1 or 2 bullets, now,
that's
okay, all right, that's enough. Then
he's got a 2 touchdown limit in the game, and then that's it.
There you go. There you go.
Rap's telling us to take a defensive playmaker or wide receiver, in his opinion, his humble opinion, because he's so humble. Disappointed. I don't think Kwesi would go center round 1. That's what I think is we'd fall back if we did take I think we're falling back almost no matter who's there.
Right.
Maybe except for a couple of guys, they really fell. But yeah, I'm playing off of this one. This is a deep cornerback class. He says, so I'm bringing up the cornerback we have on this list, Julius Brents.
Julius Brents didn't do anything that wowed me. I mean, I definitely think there were better people there, but you didn't see Julius Brents getting burnt like some of the corners that were there. I mean, Caillou Blue Kelly from Stanford is definitely one guy that, can raise your eyebrows when you see him play, but then also he can get burnt. But Julius Brents, I think, could be a solid player. He's one guy that if he's sitting there at the 6th round or 7th round, I'm definitely drafting him, and I'm definitely going to put him under somebody like a Jalen Ramsey or something to learn from, because I think he has a skill set to be that good.
Your distant cousin, Daniel Jeremiah, referred to him these players as guys that moved up into the draft. So he picked out a lot of guys that moved the needle and got themselves in the draft. Did he
Daniel
stand out at all?
No, not really. But Daniel Jeremiah is one of those guys too that if you're not making a ton of mistakes, you move up his board. I'm the same way when it comes to a lot of players. So, like I said, with Julius Brents, he didn't stand out, but like I said, he didn't get demolished either. But this guy right here, Riley Moss.
I thought I'd throw you some meat here. This is a guy you picked.
Riley Moss was the fastest corner there. When I was telling you guys about the speed index that they had up on the boards and then the zebra stats that you can scan.
Right.
Riley Moss you could tell he's just quick. I mean, he's, like I said, not to get into the racism kind of thing, but here we go. Oh, my Alexa's going off. But Riley Moss was the fastest corner there. Michael Wilson, I know we're going to talk about him too.
And he is a...
Maybe Alexa trying to say something was right when you started talking about him.
You can say it.
Yeah, I need to connect it back to the internet.
Yeah, there you go.
But Riley Moss had a couple reps against Michael Wilson from Stanford, and he stayed with them. The 2 passes were caught on him, and I just think it's just because Michael Wilson is one of the most underrated wide receivers in this class coming out. But he kept up with them with the speed. Again, would be another guy that you would set under like a Jalen Ramsey to work on his physicality, but you're not worried about his speed and keeping up with people. You're not going to trick him on a route. Riley Moss has been a top 5 corner in college football for a very, very long time too. I believe he was a 1-star coming out of high school, and he said the only school that he wanted to go to was Iowa, and the coach reached out to him, brought him on, and from there he's been fantastic, man. We got to interview him too. He's a great practice guy. Every single rep, he was very hard on himself too. He's like, man, you know, I'm not gonna make any excuses. I'm super sore, but again, he was getting the best reps of the Senior Bowl because he was going against Ronnie Bell from Michigan, and Ronnie Bell is no joke. Mm-hmm. And I even asked him that. I was like, why do you think they have you match up against him? I was like, you both are probably the two fastest guys here. And he was like, iron sharpens iron, man. I think that's why they got him matched up. So,
in size wise, he's 6'1", arm length. Well, you know, he's corner 30 3/8. But I have a 40 time potentially 4.41 on him. So he's got the measurables. When
you talk about it as measurables and intangibles, one thing that they're not going to put on the stat sheet because it's not realistic to measure, they're going to have underlying a dog. Because he's a dog, man.
I think on the dog part of the spider chart, he's 98th percentile. I think. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. He's damn good, man. He's one that you might see his name. He reminds me a lot of, and not to compare and be a homer here for your Vikings, but he's like the Harrison Smith guy that flies under the radar and doesn't always get mentioned among the best. Because he's not the sexiest safety or cornerback out there, but you're going to see wide receivers be like, I hate going against Riley, man, because he's a clean player. He doesn't play dirty, and he sticks on me like glue, and it just makes it hard. He's annoying. That's the best word for it.
Yeah. Round wise, where do you think he fits?
Riley Moss?
Yeah.
Like Florida Boy said, there's a lot of good corners coming out in this draft.
That's good for us because we don't have very many picks.
Let me tell you, I asked him how fast do he thinks he's going to run his 40 time at the combine. This dude said with confidence, "Oh, I'm gonna run under a 4.4. That ain't no question." Okay. He said, "If I'm not sore by that time, I'm running under a 4.4. If he runs into 4.3s." Not only will he probably be the fastest guy there in this draft class, he's going to shoot from wherever he is, probably projected like third or fourth the last time I seen, probably beginning of the second round, and that's a good spot for him. I mean, that's literally like in this draft class, that's like being a first round pick.
Right.
So
we got a question for you. Emmanuel Forbes, second round.
I don't know Emmanuel Forbes, so I don't know too much about
it. Yeah, we got to skip that one. Sorry, man. I'm not a big guru either. We could live in fantasy land and trade up to get Bryce Young.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, that'll be the day. That's you, Justin. How about the Vikings don't take a cornerback? We're taking a cornerback. I just don't know how late. I think we're gonna do it. I think that. What do you think, Justin? We're taking a corner sometime in this draft.
I mean, listen, the fantasy dream of trading Dalvin Cook for Xavier Howard and re-signing Duke Shelley to solidify the cornerback room before going into the draft. Sans that, there's no way they don't take a corner in this particular draft because you've got Patrick Peterson. I'm sorry, all due respect, he's not going to be back. We don't know what's going to happen with Duke Shelley. So if you don't bring those two guys back, you're starting Cam Dantzler. Last year of his contract was had his ups and downs and a bunch of injury guys. Caleb Evans, again, concussions are what they are. It's not like, that's a thing. I mean, it just is what it is. And Andrew Booth Jr., we don't know what we got there. There is no way they don't take a cornerback unless some ridiculous, trades happen or that sort of thing, I would think.
What I wish for you guys? I'm going to skip
safety here. I'm going to move on to a different one, but go ahead, Dante.
I wish for you guys to do this, and I think you could do it if you get rid of Dalvin. Go and get Joey Porter Jr. He would work so well in your defense. There would be nothing that you would have to worry about as far as physicality, because that's what you guys are lacking. Cam Dantzler ain't that guy. No. The rest of those guys aren't that guy. He's that guy that would add physicality to at least your cornerback room and something that, Brian Flores, I know, is going to like. Because Xavier Howard's the same way.
What'd you think of Caleb Evans? He kind of surprised all of us this year, except for, he got the concussions.
Yeah, Caleb Evans is going to be good. Just needs more development, and if he can stay healthy, the sky's the limit. I mean, the sky's the limit for any player in the NFL as long as they get the right coaching. And and good for you guys for going out and go get Brian Flores, because he's going to bring the best out of those guys. And he's a pretty straight up guy. You either got it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see a lot
from the beginning. I never wavered. I never wavered on Brian Flores.
Hey, I like Brian Flores, especially him being under Mike Tomlin. This was the best thing for Brian Flores to do, is go to Mike Tomlin, to a Steelers team that was in limbo this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Tomlin has still not had a losing season.
Nope. It's insane.
This was the season to do. So
I was like, this is the season. It's okay, Tomlin. You're fine. Nope. You can have a losing season. Nope, not gonna do it.
Not on.
But now he knows that as a coach, he knows what it's like from somebody like Mike Tomlin, not only to bring him in and give him a chance during all the midst of everything that happened. We all know that it was unfair what happened to Brian Flores. I think everybody can agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
But being in another situation and another adversity type of situation as well with the Steelers, and the senior head coach step up and get those guys going, making some tough decisions, because not everybody was sold on a lot of decisions that were being made, especially at the quarterback position. And they still got 9 wins, So Brian Flores is going to be the same way. It's going to be the humblest, cutthroat environment ever.
and he was the linebackers coach for the Steelers, and we got one here, Dan Henley from Washington State. You know about him?
I do. Dan Henley was really good as well. The one thing that he's really going to be good at is those screen type of passes. He's a really quick linebacker, not the strongest, not the fastest, but they were doing drills, and this is where he stood out to me, because Chase Brown, I know you skipped past Sidney Brown, who's Chase Brown's brother, from Indiana or Illinois, but Henley was keeping up with Chase Brown and the rest of those guys, man. When they were doing these little dump off passes, he was right on them. And all the other linebackers kind of struggled in that drill. And even though the halfbacks were not the best catching halfbacks in the world at the Senior Bowl either, so not going to give them any stamp of approval. I don't think these are the guys that you draft to be a two-way player, besides one guy that we'll mention. But Dan Henley was keeping up with all of them. So if you're drafting this guy, you're literally drafting him to come in and be in those type of packages where you're going to play the Alvin Kamaras and stuff like that and make sure that they're not getting anywhere. I didn't really get to see him tackle in the game. Didn't really have my glasses on him, but I'm sure he's a pretty sound tackler. They have to tackle a lot up there at Washington State, as much as people, do little dump off passes and how fast they are. You're forced to tackle people there.
So he's the anti Eric Kendricks from this year, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So we might be looking for a running back late if we lose our top 2 in free agency or trade or cut or whatever we're going to do. Tyjae Spears, Tulane running back. Where does he fit in the draft?
He fits with you guys. He fits with the Saints. He fits with several other teams because he's the next Alvin Kamara. And when we asked him, he said that's his favorite player. And guess where he's from? He's from Louisiana.
I was about to say probably Louisiana, right?
Yeah, he went to Tulane. Tulane's in Louisiana, but he's actually from there too. So when I spoke to him, man, one thing he's going to be for any team, because you got to think about it as the business aspect and marketing, he's going to be a media darling too. He's a very good guy to speak to. He's always super humble, and he practiced hard all week, man. He was the most impressive. He's got that scary speed. This is something I'll say for him that I probably can't say about any other running back in this class. I personally have him ranked higher than Bijan Robinson. And people are like, what? But this dude had 4 touchdowns and 190 yards against USC when Tulane beat USC this year. Right. That just doesn't get swept under the rug. You know what I'm saying? Right. And every single game of the season, he got better and better and better. 170-yard game, 180-yard game, 190-yard game. He's that type of dude, and he was the best pass-catching running back in this, at the Senior Bowl. So I think the other one that you can probably head towards is Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. He's kind of like that. I have him ranked higher than Tyjae Spears, but Tyjae Spears, just because he played at Tulane, he showed you that he His coming out party was the USC game. I didn't need to see anything else outside of that.
Florida Boy says Joey Porter Jr. is coming to Jacksonville. Do you want that to happen?
I'm okay with it because we do need a physical corner. The one thing about Joey Porter Jr., he does get pulled for a lot of flags. So if you saw what happened at the end of the Super Bowl, his would be very obvious. I mean, but somebody can fix that too. Somebody can teach him how to
What do you think about that call? I mean, there was a jersey pull.
On him. Yeah.
There was what do you think about that call? There was a jersey pull. So I mean, there was when you see jersey pull, you kind of always see automatic flag. But when you look at it, like you know, you had to see it in like slow motion to see that happen from outside looking in. You know, what did you think of that call?
I'm probably the worst person to ask this question to because
Which makes you the perfect person to ask.
I'm on the minority side. Like, if it was a flag that got called, I saw the jersey get pulled. But at the end of the day, this is the issue with the NFL. They don't really define what these penalties are or what they define a penalty to be. I had the perfect idea. I said this a couple of shows ago. If there was something in the rule book that said this is it, why don't they show graphics all the time? Why don't they show like an animation of what they consider to be like a textbook hold or pass interference or catch with the rule on it as well, while not only teaching us at home what they get judged on by being a referee, but we can also see, kind of like a primetime example. I'm in the boat that you got to play 60 minutes of football. If you let this come down to one call, it is what it is, especially a call where people are like, I mean, it's pretty much 50-50 now because people are starting to see the other side of it. I try to put myself in the Eagles' shoes. I'm like, well, would they have liked to see another drive? Maybe. But I'll tell you one thing that nobody is saying about that. I'm sure Juju went up to that referee several times and be like, this dude is holding me every single chance he gets. Can somebody pull the flag? That's what we don't see on TV, but a lot of these players are vocal. And it just so happened that referee that he spoke to had his eyeball cinched into that play and threw the flag.
And they wonder why Adam Thielen complains to the refs all the time. It just for
that
sometimes Adam Thielen complains, and it's like, dude, that was not a flag.
But he's doing it for the exact reason. And every player does. They do it for the exact reason that's playing four-dimensional chess. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, like I said, what happened during the game, the 60 minutes of football, they never should have allowed, the Chiefs to come back 24 points in the second half. Jalen Hurts should have never fumbled the way he fumbled.
Oh, gosh. What a tarnishment on his.
I mean, if you're going to look at just one flag being called to determine your whole game, that's like, I watch MMA, right? If you leave it in the hands of the judges and it was a tight fight, you can't be mad at what the judge's play call is. It's the same thing. We're human beings. Unless we want to put robots out there to do our officiating, which will eventually happen. We all know this. But, yeah,
there's just going to be a bunch of Roombas out there. There's going to be a bunch of Roombas out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what my coach said when we were playing football. We used to get mad about play calls at the end of games, and he used to say, "All right, so we played 60 minutes of football, and you're mad about that flag. What did y'all do to put more points on the board to make that call irrelevant?"
Thank you.
I gave a lot of credit to the Eagles because they had the exact same attitude, and that's the only credit I'll ever give you. Philadelphia, and then I'm done, and I'm glad you lost. So
hey, you know what I'll say one more thing about that Super Bowl. When they came out at halftime, I'll tell you what the most impressive thing was, and I think this is what lost the Eagles the game, and Eagles fans will never admit it. When they came out at halftime and they did that very first drive that they did, and they came out guns blazing, bam, 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 and scored, that's what deflated them. That's what deflated them.
Scoring so fast,
scoring so fast and efficiently. Because I only think they had like 1/3 down that they had, and the rest of the drive was just bam, bam, bam down the field to score.
They weren't expecting security.
Mm-hmm. Or here's the other point. I was a big proponent of saying that Hassan Reddick was kind of overrated this season, and I watched the tape on the guy. He was getting half sacks doing this, touching the guy's shoelace on the way down. And they were awarding him half a sack. So really his stats this year were inflated by the rest of the team playing well and him just getting a piece of the puzzle. Now this playoffs, he played great. But if he was defensive player of the year, that everybody was claiming, all the Eagles fans and all the people that were big Hassan Reddick fans. If he was such a defensive player of the year, why didn't he show up at the Super Bowl at all? 70 sacks the Eagles had this season. And
it's like Ramsey. Ramsey with the Rams was terrible.
Yep. 70 sacks this season, and they had 0 as a unit. How is that possible? That's not coaching. That's players.
Might have a little something to do with the player on the other side too. You know what I said in one.
Perfect game plan they had.
Right. You know, we were talking on Tuesday, and it's just like, well, how did this happen? I'm like, they got Mahomes, kind of like you got Mossed. They got Mahomes. To me, it isn't bad. But as far as that penalty goes, I'll try to keep this. I refereed soccer for 20 years, and I played soccer too. And like any official in any sport, you have to use your discretion because you could literally call something on every 10 seconds, and you can't. There is no game flow if you literally call every infraction. So you have to balance out, okay, how much of an advantage did this team get and how much did they not get? And how many advantages have I let happen both ways throughout this game? But as an official, this ridiculous notion of, well, a great Super Bowl, but the refs decided the game at the end. No, they did not. 1, it's a proper call. 2, if a ref doesn't call an infraction, then they're deciding the game the other way. So I've never understood this notion of, well, if you call that penalty, you call that infraction, you gave the game to team A, but you would have been giving it to team B if you didn't call it. So now, granted, again, we don't know what would have happened with the butterfly effect if Kansas City has to kick a field goal there, and then we don't know if the Eagles tie it or if they win it. Obviously, it's a bang-bang play. And yes, in the instance of calling the infraction, just like when Lieber got called for that bogus pass interference, the game was over at that point. Exactly. You're in field goal range. Unless you're Blair Walsh, you're not going to miss that field goal. So, sorry, yes, I brought up 2 Vikings defeats in the playoffs in one sentence. But having said all that, my point is that I've never liked that notion. And, yes, was that pill a little easier to swallow, being that it was Philly that kind of got, the short end of the stick there? Yes, absolutely. But I will also freely admit that if that was the Vikings throwing that, if that was Cousins throwing to JJ and they didn't call that, how up in arms would we as Vikings fan be that they didn't call that? So I'm sorry. I mean, it's unfortunate that it did come down to a play like that, and you can make the argument about it being ticky-tack all you want, but the definition of ticky-tack means there was still an infraction that happened. So in my opinion, that call absolutely should have been made, and it was the right call.
Here's my 2 cents.
You don't not call it just because it's the fourth quarter. I mean,
here's my 2 cents, and then I'm going to Thanos this conversation. Jalen Hurts fumbling with nobody touching him, the punt return, the big punt return, and then Andy Reid's play calling, such as corn dog, making just people wide ass open at the goal line. I think won this game, and it doesn't hurt that he has a good quarterback, a great quarterback like Pat Mahomes, to actually execute it. I think that Andy Reid can make a lot of players look good, and some of those plays he must have, because those guys had no idea what to do when it got to the goal line, and I think Andy Reid deserves a shitload of credit for this. Let's move on to Keon White, Georgia Tech edge, because we need some pass rushers. This guy,
we need everything.
What is this guy? Tell me about this guy.
Keon White. We didn't know nothing about Keon White before we went to the Senior Bowl, and I could tell you the first day, it was hard not to watch him every rep. He was literally our number 1 rated player coming out of the Senior Bowl. He's that damn good. I think he only had like 7 sacks, 25 tackles at Georgia Tech. This kid transferred from Old Dominion. He played at Old Dominion for 3 years, then transferred to Georgia Tech and had an immediate impact. Mm-hmm. One of my guys that spoke to a Georgia Tech guy, and he was like, man, we didn't really realize Keon White was that good. What I told you guys about Byron Young was ×2 with Keon White. I mean, every single rep was not a rep wasted. I could give that to any other player there. Keon White, let me tell you something interesting about him. When we walked in for the breakfast on Wednesday, he came in with the team. We didn't even know it was a player. He was sitting behind us the whole time reading a book. Did not want to be interviewed. Then came out and practiced like a demon. every rep, man. Super impressive. There's not one bad thing I can say about Keon White, other than if he gets with a good defensive line coach that unlocks him, he's the next whatever you want. Like Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, anybody, Von Miller, name them all.
It's like Danielle Hunter had no really. He didn't have much production, coming into the league, and then he all of a sudden just boom.
I mean, he plays at Georgia Tech too, so he's a smart kid as well, and that's why he was so nose into the book. But
so when you say nose in the book, you talking about like a playbook or like
just like a regular book?
Okay,
like Tom Sawyer,
pages and everything.
Huckleberry Finn. He was in the back. I didn't even know. We had our camera and everything set up. I didn't even know. I noticed there was something behind us, but I didn't even know that was a player until Ronnie told me after. He was like, that was Keon White sitting behind us the whole time. I was like, bro, I thought it was a media guy.
If I had known, we would have gone talk to the guy. Yeah.
Heck yeah. We tried to get an interview after the last day of practice. He was with his family. You could tell he's like a shy guy that didn't want none of the spotlight, man. He's like, I wanted to practice, and I want to go to the game, and I want to go home.
He's coming to work. He's coming to work.
I love that kid, man. Like he's a number one prospect for me coming out of the Senior Bowl. I mean, just we circled it. I mean, it was a heavy circle around his name.
So where's his draft round projection at the moment?
I could tell you, he was 150 overall when we looked before the Senior Bowl. He ended up like in the 30s.
Ooh, so other people noticed. All right.
Mike Tomlin wants him bad. So, I mean, every single rep he was there, Mike Tomlin was like this, watching his reps every time he was out. I mean, so we're on the same wavelength.
CBS has him as a DN, so is he a 4-3 DN?
Probably. I mean, he could play in any type of offense the way that he played. DN, outside linebacker, 3 technique, whatever you want. The kids.
I put him as to look at this guy. I checked him out.
He's awesome, man.
Josh Wild, Cincinnati tight end. We're a little. I guess we might be a little light on tight end, so tight end might be a draft pick for us, even though we're top end heavy.
You guys end up blocking tight end. You guys don't need a catching tight end.
Yeah. What's this guy?
He's definitely a pass catching tight end, for sure. But he was pretty good. He got better as practice went on. I mean, he's not a guy that I wouldn't draft before the 5th round, though. I think he's kind of one of those diamond in the rough kind of guys. You got to work on him. But he tend to get better and better and better. Amazing hands, pretty quick. He's really tall. There's 2 tight ends that I would put above him. If you guys want like another like blue collar blocking tight end, and Justin, you know this guy, man, Payne Durham from Purdue.
Yeah,
Payne Durham is like everything.
Yeah,
like the next he's the next George Kittle. He's good. He can block. He can catch. He can run. He can route you up. He's tall. He's big. That's the guy that you want if you ever wanted to move away from TJ Hawkinson and put him in a trade package. I'd be okay with keeping Payne Durham on my team and get rid of TJ Hawkinson. Like, he just has that skill set. I mean, every single pass that was thrown to him, he found a way to catch it. I remember in practice, he got crunched up. They weren't even practicing with tackling, but I think he was on Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown hit him while he was in the air. He caught the pass. It was still in his hand. Helmet came off and everything. Kid loves playing football, man.
Tough guy.
Yeah, love him.
Well, we got a 2-for-1 deal on that one. I wrote his name down too. For some reason, CBS doesn't even have him listed with the tight ends.
Oh yeah,
Payne Durham. So is he like a guy coming out of nowhere type thing?
Wait, they don't have him listed as a tight end?
I mean, I'm not lying, man. I just use it as a go-to, just a list that I pulled up, and that's
blasphemous that he's not even on the list.
Yeah, it's tight end, right?
Yeah,
Payne Durham, nowhere to be seen, and it's a list of like 200 and some.
I tell you, he's not going to probably be on their list either. Who played at Purdue? Who's really freaking good and should be a top 3 wide receiver, and nobody talks about him. Charlie Jones.
Let me look.
Charlie Jones was awesome. Even when he was at Iowa, he was awesome.
You are right. They're dumb there too. So let me put Charlie Jones in here and go. All right, Purdue. All right. So we have CBS
Michael Wilson. We talked about him a little bit on Riley Moss, where he got those 2 catches. If you talk about it, you want a tough wide receiver that can run routes, eyes glued to the ball. I think his vision is the thing that surprised me the most. Can track a ball down like no other. Not afraid to get in contested catches. You talk about that's like that Jamar Chase kind of vision. Like just the ball just seems like a Nerf ball to him. Like he goes up and gets it. Michael Wilson was a standout for us too. Practice really good. Not when you look at the intangible side, he's not the fastest, but can run routes really clean and can catch the ball. I mean, does anybody really care about anything else? Like if you can get a first down, you can get a first down.
Right.
He's gonna be your curl route monster for sure. That's not afraid to get hit, and with a hand in there, he's not gonna let loose the ball.
So a younger Adam Thielen.
That's a great comparison. Yes.
He's 6'2", so that's good height.
Mm-hmm.
And I got one last guy here, Chris Rodriguez, running back from Kentucky.
Can't say enough good things about Chris Rodriguez. It is absolutely a travesty that people talk about Will Levis over him. I mean, it annoys me. And Chris Rodriguez, he got suspended for some off the field issues this year. Came back like a bullet in a gun yet again. He's good. He's big. He's strong. He had a really good Senior Bowl. Every time he was breaking either like a 6 or 7 yard run, or for a first down. I mean, it was crazy. So his vision is really, really good. One thing I can say about him too, he seems like he's a great teammate, and the team really rallied around him in the Senior Bowl because early in January, his mom had passed away. And it was from some type of cancer, I believe. And he had wore like a blue face mask or something like that. Because, they had white face masks in Kentucky. And one of the other players allowed them to, put his face mask. And they flip-flop face masks so he would be able to wear the color of, like a ribbon of whatever cancer that his mom had. I think it was like purple or something like that. So I think I think purple is, what is it called? Ovarian cancer, I believe.
I'll check it.
Yeah, so he wore a purple face mask at the Senior Bowl, and that was really cool for him to honor her. But he was practicing hard all week too. Cool guy. We've seen a couple of interviews with him too. Really humble. He's a blue collar kind of runner too. He reminds me of Mo Ibrahim too. I mean, if you can't get Mo Ibrahim, you go and get Chris Rodriguez for sure. He's a smaller guy in stature, but I love that guy, man. He's definitely in my top 10 running backs this year.
Yeah, they got him listed, and this is NFLDraftBuzz.com. They have him listed at 5'11". Is that true? You said he's small, though.
Yeah, as far as weight, he's small.
Yeah, they must be way off here then, because they got him at
he looks like that in person, but he might, in the intangible side. There's some people that you look at and you're like, man, this dude ain't 250.
Yeah, he's not a speedy guy they have, but yeah.
They're crazy. He's an open field monster too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
he doesn't have the endurance down the field.
CBS didn't even have him on the list. So I put him down to go look at.
He's more of like an acceleration guy than more of a speed guy. Speed is how long you can run and how fast you can keep that up. Acceleration through the tackle, he's excellent.
And I don't know how much to go off of this particular site because, where did they get these things from? I don't know. That the combine hasn't even happened yet. But with CBS, they've been missing people. So I'm glad I had you on to give us some of these names, man.
Hey, there's definitely gems if you look out. College football is probably one of the hardest sports to watch, along with any collegiate sport, because there's so many different teams and there's so many good players as well. But having a pleasure to go and actually watching them on TV is one thing too. That I'll tell you is watching TV, everybody looks the same speed. But watching them and how they play in practice and watching them in real life is a little different too. So I think a lot of people that are scouting players, and we all do it because not everybody's going to be able to make it to every game, right? But watching them in person has really opened my eyes on a lot of players. Because hearing the grunting that when people are running, when Ronnie and Evan were with me, they never played football before, and they heard the running backs running in drills, and it was some of them were doing it, and others weren't. They're like, "Why is he doing that?" I was like, "Because he's running hard. Like this practice matters to him, and those are the good players, that you can hear in the stands on how hard that they're running and stuff like that." So
let's do a quick lightning round with the videos I've done so far, and you can tell me, and I can figure out how stupid I am. I really like this guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yes,
I did too, until what Marvin Harrison Jr. did this year. He totally made Jackson Smith and Jigba even seem like he wasn't a number one anymore. I do like him though. I do like him. I think
everything's based off his sophomore year, right?
This is right. That's true.
That's very true. That's very true. And it's a shame. I mean, I don't know why he let up. I don't know if he felt threatened. Maybe it's a psyche thing, which they're going to figure that out in this draft if it's a psyche thing, because it's one of the questions they're going to ask. Why did your production drop even though you were the number one guy on the depth chart and Marvin Harrison Jr. was better than him? He's going to get pegged with that question.
Well, he didn't even play but like 5 catches this entire year because it was hamstring, right? Was the injury thing, or
when he played in the games, he was non-existent. When he was
that's what they said. As the games he did play, he didn't even. It's like he didn't even participate. You already told me I'm dumb here, so I'll move on. Zay Flowers, you had a lot to say on the chat last night. I just said that he is a Percy Harvin type player, and Percy I think has higher in speed. But
hey, I'm a Florida State guy, so me giving any type of Gator high praise is.
I was reading between the lines. You're saying bullshit, but hey, I did this guy because someone asked me to. So let's hear it from an actual college football expert.
Zay Flowers is interesting. I mean, the only thing about him is his size, but again, one of those intangibles that you don't include on anybody because it's not something that you can measure. He's a dog. I mean, at Boston College, he showed you every single rep, who he is, and I hope he carries that over into the combine because I believe he could be the next Cooper Kupp for sure. I mean, he stands out in college because, not every college player is elite, but when you get to the NFL, that gap gets really, really small, if not insignificant. Right. So we still have that dog mentality going into the league. I like Zay Flowers though. I mean, I watched some film on him recently because I didn't see him a lot in college this year. I mean, who else here watches a lot of Boston College games? Let's be real. Unless they're playing Florida State, I don't really watch. So, but I went back and reviewed the film on it just to see what everybody was saying about Zay Flowers, and he's freaking good, man. The way that he can get open, his footwork is probably the best in the class right now.
I still had the Florida State logo on this one. I didn't re-up the slideshow on this particular channel. So, yeah, in memory of you. But hey, man, any last words, man? Tell before we call it a night.
Not really, man. I appreciate you guys having me on to talk about it, man.
Man, we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, it was. I encourage everybody that's a content creator and stuff like that. Not only, if you're focusing on an NFL team or vice versa, just to see what the other world is about. You don't have to be an expert. A lot of people ask me like, how can I start watching college football? And I'll tell you this.
TV turn it on.
well, that too. But just to how to like get into it without feeling overwhelmed because there are 130 schools, especially in FBS. Pick in the Power 5 conferences, the Big 12, the Big 10, ACC, Pac-12, and SEC.
In Summit League.
Pick one team from each
one. Last question, because Dave Michelson, he's the guy that won that Justin Jefferson rookie card last night, and he joined Twitter just to go get the card from the GD Sports podcast. What about Trent Simpson? He says, do you know? I don't know.
Trent Simpson from Clemson, the linebacker. He's good, man. He's probably going to be the first linebacker chosen this year outside of that kid from Iowa. I'm always running a blank on his name. Something.
Yeah,
Ness.
I haven't done a video. I had a slide of him, and I did watch this guy, and he kind of looks like it looks like he played outside linebacker and he blitzed a lot. And I think I brought him up because of what Flores, I think, his mentality and defense, that this is a guy that could move up and down along the the line, behind the defensive line and just be anywhere in blitz. And I think that's what probably but I think he's going too high for us to like put a value that high on a linebacker.
Yeah. He's good though. I mean, if you want a speed guy that can be that next what's the kid out of San Francisco? Dre Greenlaw. I mean, he's a little smaller than him, but that's who he reminds me of. That's his NFL comparable for me. So you go after Trent Simpson with that. But I mean, there's nobody that's really about this class, man. There's nobody that's really like, ooh, you got to go get him outside of like Bryce Young. I don't even think Will Anderson is like that out of Alabama. And people are like, oh, crap. And then you got Jalen Carter, who everybody's already putting a cap on him that can be the next Aaron Donald. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we start comparing these kids to like people that are established, because Aaron Donald wasn't even like that in Pittsburgh coming out. He was developed into the monster that he was when somebody unlocked that. So
we still drafted Anthony Barr before him and put him into a 4-3 defense instead of 3-4, and Aaron Donald was there.
You just don't know, man. You just don't.
And you're also doing a disservice to the kid too, because that is putting undue expectations on any player. I mean, I'm with you on that. It's we always in this instant society of ours is like, okay, what's this person's ceiling? What's this person's floor? Who does this person remind you of? Well, we don't know. They ain't even played in the league yet, for crying out loud.
Hey, Justin, I'm gonna expand on that too, because I think this is an interesting point.
We're in a bonus time now. Let's go.
Yes, we are.
I think this is an interesting point to make when it comes to like the comparisons and putting kids on the pedestal like Trevor Lawrence and things like that. You have people like Andrew Luck that played at Stanford, that his dad played in the NFL. That when we saw the first game of him at Stanford, when I saw that game, I was like, he's ready. Like right now. No matter how bad he plays in this game, somebody's going to mold him to be an excellent quarterback. And what did he turn out to be? A great teammate, a great quarterback by all standards. And we got cut short on a lifetime of his quarterbacking career because of the way that team did not want to put weapons around him. Did not waver the way that he played 1 second. You never thought that he was not going to be good. But the difference between you calling somebody like Andrew Luck generational is his dad's going to beat him down. And he's a smart guy. He went to Stanford. He's not, when he talked in interviews, he never put that pressure on himself. He was always level-headed. Now, with people like Trevor Lawrence and the rest of these guys that are coming out in the draft, we're growing up in a generation where like social media is mad prevalent right now. And it's all about me. And Trevor Lawrence went to a school where he never lost. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard for him to live up to that because we already built him to be the next generational guy when Trevor Lawrence and Andrew Luck are not even in the same realm of quarterback to me.
No.
And Trevor Lawrence is my guy on my team.
Yeah.
And he's played decent, but I never thought for 1 second that he was better than Justin Fields. And Justin Fields turned a new leaf up with the Bears because not only did he go to a situation that he did not want to be in, but he hunkered down, did what he had to do, and he became a team guy. And everybody's like, well, the Bears might trade him and get 2 or 3 first-round picks because he's that good. So that's the difference. Like, when we start putting people on that pedestal, man, we really start doing a disservice to them. And then we do a disservice to ourselves because when we build them up on that pedestal, we might not get the football that we're expecting out of these guys.
And then we label that person as a bust or as a not living up to expectations. Okay, well, when you put them expectations far too high, it would have taken who knows what in order to live up to them. I mean, there is a reason that Hall of Fame players generally are tied to Hall of Fame coaches, and Hall of Fame coaches are generally tied to Hall of Fame players. Okay? Everybody want to talk about Phil Jackson's overrated because he had Jordan and Pippen, and then he had Kobe and Shaq, and then Kobe and Pau Gasol. Kobe and Shaq, Jordan and Pippen, they ain't win no titles before Phil Jackson came in and was the final piece to get him to figure it out. Does that mean that somebody else might not have eventually get them to figure it out? Sure, maybe not. All I know is that, okay, take Tim Duncan away from Greg Popovich. How good a coach is Popovich? How good a player is Duncan? They'd still be good, but would they have been all-time greats? Who knows? But to the overarching point, it's sometimes it's also just about the situation you get put in. You said like Andrew Luck,
Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean Patrick Mahomes. I heard a 20-second clip of some Kansas City radio station guy when they made the move to get Patrick Mahomes. Like, I can't believe they're doing this for Patrick Mahomes. This guy doesn't look like anything. And what a disservice to Alex Smith. And I'm just like, no, there's an old takes exposed if there ever was one, saying how ridiculous it was to take Patrick Mahomes and move on from Alex Smith. But the point is that it also just depends on what system you go to, and are you going to flourish in that kind of system? So,
hey, I want to give Andrew Luck his flowers too, man. I know we talk him up, but here's one thing that I'm just like starting to put the realization together, and it's been there, it's obvious, but let's put the timeline together. Everybody said he was generational, smart guy, dad played in the NFL, all that stuff, had the career that he had. He also came into the league with probably the most pressure out of any player that's ever been drafted, replacing Peyton Manning, who brought that city nothing but the good times throughout the years, and he still either shattered those expectations for people. You don't get those type of players ever.
Right.
And he did it exactly what he was expected to do. And I think when we look back upon that, he'll never make the Hall of Fame. He'll make it in the Ring of Honor and things like that. But I think that the Hall of Fame should really have a modern wing, or like a wing where we were cut short on people's careers. Because he's one of those guys that is a Hall of Fame player if he would have played long enough. But, I mean, circumstances are circumstances, but it would be amazing to take your kid to the Hall of Fame and you get to say, this is one of the best quarterbacks that did not have a long career, but look at his accomplishments and look at his backstory of everything that he had to go through. He deserves more than what the Colts fans gave him, man. I think they're the worst fans in the NFL by the way that they showed out when he said he was going to retire, man. The boos and all that stuff that happened. That dude gave nothing but his blood, sweat, and tears, like literally every freaking weekend for that team. And for them to do that to him, I mean, I literally called my wife today. I was like shedding a tear because me and him are around the same age. I was like, man, I hate that the sport that we love, we got cut short of somebody's probably legendary career. And it makes you sad, man. You know what I'm saying? But we're witnessing some pretty good football right now. You just hope that stuff doesn't happen to like Patrick Mahomes and things like that. So,
all right, man. Thank you for giving us overtime. I never can get the show under an hour because I bring on great guests like you, and Justin likes to talk. So I'm just kidding, man. This was not your fault. This is all me this time. All right. Thanks for showing up, man. Hey, this is Under the Lights. We had Dante burning underneath him and telling us about his experience at the Senior Bowl, giving us a whole bunch of gold coming out of this talk today. And I'm sorry, guys, if I didn't get all your questions, and I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having you.
No problem, man.
And Skull Vikings. And we got Adam Thielen jersey on, so awesome.
There we go. Yeah, we got a college show here at 9:15. So if you guys got some free time,
I was about to say,
over on our channel.
Everybody,
everybody that's still on here, go to ECG, East Coast Gridiron. Also, I got his links in the description below. Just pop on over there and join his show in 10 minutes. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. I wouldn't have taught this long if I didn't think I can make it over there. So we're good.
All right, that's it for today. Skull Vikes.
All right, see you guys.